G'day everybody, welcome back to another Affinity Photo tutorial. Welcome back to my channel. Have another composite tutorial for you this week. These are some of the assets that we're going to use to create our picture. But we're going to start off just with the background image. So let's turn all of these off and let's just concentrate on our background image. Okay, I want this background to look a little bit more like a night scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a new pixel layer here and drag it underneath the background. Grabbing my flood fill tool, I'm going to pick a really nice blue, but right nearly into the blacks here. So about like that, and just fill that background. If I turn the forest off, you can see we've just filled that background with blue. Back onto the background, I'm going to come up here to select tonal range and just select the highlights, and it should pick all the white bits in this picture here. I'll grab my brush here, my selective brush tool, holding down my option key, we'll just get rid of it off the tree here. We don't need it on the tree. We don't want to highlight or select anything on the tree or anything in the forest down here. I'm just holding option key down and getting rid of that on the tree. Just like that. Okay, make sure we're on the background. I'm just going to hit delete. Command D, and you can see now I've got rid of a lot of that lightness in the background, so we can make it a little bit more like a night photo. I'm going to come down here to adjustments and come on to HSL. I'm going to clip that to that layer, and I'm going to drag this little slider backwards until I get that sort of more of a blue look, and drop the luminosity a little bit. Also going to add another adjustment, which is going to be a selective color. Going to drag that onto there as well. Make sure I'm clicked on neutrals, and on cyan I'm going to add that 35, and then on yellow -20. And now I've got more of a nighttime look, which I'm a little bit more happy with. That looks a lot better. Let's close that up for now. Let's bring in the picture of our rock here. So this is the picture we're going to use to grab our rock. So let's just highlight that, make it a bit bigger, and I only want this rock here. So again, I'm going to grab my selection brush tool, and I'm going to select this rock. I'm also going to select just slightly underneath the rock as well. Hold my option key down if I get too much, and probably about like that. Okay, what I'm going to do is invert the selection and just hit delete, just so I've got the rock here. Command D to get rid of those marching ants. Let's place our rock sort of in the middle here, straighten it up a little bit. That looks pretty good. I might make it just a slightly bit bigger. And on our rock, what we'll do is add a mask. We'll make sure we're clicking on the mask. Come over here to our brushes. Our brush just needs to be a nice soft brush, so we'll just grab that brush. Our flow about 25%. Let's make our brush a little bit bigger, and just holding my shift key down to move up. We're going to get our colors back to default, and we'll paint in black. And let's just go around the rock here and blend that into the forest. Okay, let's add a little bit of color to that rock. I might just use the same selective color adjustment just that I used on the background. I'm just going to copy that with a Command J, and I'm just going to put that on my rock as well. And I'll also add an exposure to my rock and just drop that down a little bit. So that's not looking too bad. We'll come back to the rock a little bit later and do a little bit more tweaking. Might just try and make it a little straighter. About there, looks pretty good. Going to add a few plants around my rock. So let's bring this plant in and bring that down. sort of quite big in front of the tree there and in front of the rock. There we go. Let's add an adjustment to that, or an exposure, and let's just drop that in and darken that up a little bit. About there. We will come back, whoops, a little bit too much. We will come back and tweak these plants a little bit later, but I'm going to add a few more. So Command J, add one a little bit smaller at the front of the rock here. And I might just add one more. So let's Command J, one more, and let's bring that one down behind the rock. You can bring that, make it a bit smaller, sort of creeping out. Just behind the rock there. That looks pretty good. Still sort of think that rock needs a little bit more turning. Maybe about there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, what we're going to do now on our picture is we're going to add our character. So this is the character that I've got, this little devil here. And place him on the rock, make him a little bit bigger, maybe about that size. And you can see he's already got the shadow included there. But there's a little bit of a harsh line here. So make sure we're clicked on the character. We'll grab our erase brush tool. Make that a little bit smaller. Let's just get rid of that harsh line that came with our character. So that's not too bad. That's looking okay. Maybe we could just make our character a tiny little bit smaller. That's not looking too bad. Let's add some wings to our character now. So I've got these picture of the wings. All come from the Neostock bundle that they released not too long ago. If you were subscribed to their newsletter, the Neostock photo manipulation site, I'll link it below. You got all these little assets for free. While I'm on that, let's call that wings. So what I want to do is separate the wings so I can just have one at a time. So I'm going to come up here to my marquee tool. I'm just going to go around the first wing here. Go Command X and Command V. Get rid of the marching ants, and you can see now that it's giving me the separation of those wings. So let's call that one left. And let's call this one right. On the first wing here, let's just turn off the right one for now. We want to get this one in place, and I want it looking like it's coming out of our little devil's back here. Might make it a tiny little bit bigger. And I'm just going to manipulate that into place here where I sort of would like it. I'm going to go sort of about there. Now I want to get the wing the same color as my devil here. So what I'm going to do is add a HSL adjustment here. I'm going to clip that just to the wing. What I'm going to do on the hue shift, I think we'll add about 180. And then on the saturation, let's do minus 61. So we've got a little bit of that color sort of matching now. So let's go back to that and let's just maybe move it up a bit. About there, and I'm going to add a mask. I'm on my mask layer. I'm going to grab my brush. About 25% is okay. Maybe let's drop it to 20. Maybe that's a little bit better. We're still on a nice soft brush, so let's zoom in now. And we're painting in black. So let's get rid of the bits that we don't want. Quite a bit of this here. Just get rid of it. I'm going to change over to white, hitting X on my keyboard. Might drop my flow down a little bit more, maybe to 15. And then I'm just going to bring back some of the little detail that might help it blend in a little bit better. Change over to black if you think you've gone a little bit too far. just blending that in. There we go, Command 0. Now I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to bring in the other wing now, and I'm going to do exactly the same to this wing. So I'll speed that up a bit so you don't have to watch that whole thing again. Okay, I think they're blended pretty well on those wings. So I'm pretty happy with that. Looks pretty good. So let's add some fire to our wings. So let's bring this fire down here and turn it on. This is the picture of the fire that I've chosen, and I think it looks a little bit like a wing already, so that is pretty good. Let's change the blend mode to screen, and I'm just going to manipulate that into place a little bit, sort of so we've got the fire sort of on the wing there, looking pretty good about there. Just grab my erase brush tool. I think we need just to get rid of this bit up here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, Command J, and I'm going to put a little bit more sort of around this part of the wing as well. Be something like that. Okay, that is looking pretty good. So what I'll do is highlight both of these fire layers and go merge selected to just have one layer of the fire. And on that fire layer, I'm going to add a mask. And on the mask, I'm going to hit Command I to invert it so you can't see it anymore. So let's go back to the fire, clicking on the mask. Let's grab our brush. We still know we've got a soft brush. Take this up to about 25 on our flow. Painting in white. So we've got, make our brush a little bit bigger. We're on our mask. And let's paint the fire in where we want the fire. Dropping my flow now to a little bit lower, to about 10%, I think. And I'm quite liking the look of that. That's not too bad. What I'm going to do just on that wing and the fire, I'm going to grab my smudge brush, making my brush a lot smaller. Might bring the flow up to about 40%. And a smaller brush might just get rid of some of these harsh lines. Right, just to and that's not looking too bad. Let's just grab our erase brush just on these little bits here. Just getting rid of those harsh lines. So just got that flame going around the wing. I'm going to do the same to the other wing. Again, I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to go through the whole thing. There we go, we've got both wings done. Let's come back to our character. Let's put a pixel layer on top. Now I want this really fiery orange color, like it's closer to the red. Sort of, let's go back a little bit. Maybe about that sort of orange. I'm going to fill that pixel layer with orange. Just going to make that just on my man here. And on that pixel layer, I'm going to change the blend mode to overlay. And then I'm going to put a mask. And the mask I'm going to invert. Back to my brush, about 15%. Let's get our colors back to default by hitting D on our keyboard. Brush a little bit bigger. Let's zoom in. And I want to add some of that orange just to my character here and on his back as well. And on his legs all the way down. and all the way down on his fingers, just where that sort of light from the flames might be sort of catching. Sort of a bit like that. Command 0, that's not too bad. Okay, what we'll do is on our wings, we're just going to add an exposure. Just darken them down a little bit. So we'll add that to each of our wings, Command J. So I'm just copying the one I already created and just dropping that on. And I'll also do that onto our character as well. Make them a little bit darker. So I am happy with the way that is looking. We need to just take care of our rock a little bit now as well. So let's add that pixel layer on top again. Let's fill that again with orange and then just offer that to our rock. Make sure we change that pixel layer to a blend mode of overlay. And again, we will add the mask and invert the mask. Let's grab our brush. I'm going to take the flow probably down to about 8% now, really low flow. Let's get our colors back to default. We're painting in white again. And let's just add some of that color to our rock here, where we think the flames may just be affecting it a little bit. Color down there, maybe just spilling over to the side here. And what I might do is just swap over to black, drop my flow a little bit more, maybe down to 2 or 3%, and then just dial that color back a little bit on the rock here. There we go. I think that's not looking too bad. Maybe dial it back a little bit. I think we can see on our little creature here that we've still got a line there. So let's go back to our erase brush and get rid of that line. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, that's our rock done. So not too bad. We may add a little bit more detail to that a little bit later. Let's now take care of our plants, and I'll just do one of them again so you can see we're going to do pretty much the same thing. So on this plant, I'm going to add another exposure, clip it to the plant, and I'm going to make that quite bright. And that one I'm going to Command I and just call that one light. And I'm also going to add some of that orange. So another pixel layer on top, change it to overlay, grab our flood fill tool. It's just like the way I like to just add that little bit of color. So let's just make that orange again and flood that with orange. And just keep it onto that plant there. Again, put a mask and Command I. So what I'm going to do now, again with my brush, still a very low flow, probably only about 10-11%. Colors back to default, again painting in white, and let's just add maybe some of that orange to that plant where it might be getting that reflection. But we'll drop that one sort of right back. On the light exposure that we did, still painting in white, we can add a little bit more brightness on this side because I'm going to have some lights coming through here. So just on this side. So I'll just do the rest of that to these plants here. Maybe just add a little bit of the orange and light, and I'll speed that up again because you've already seen how I do that. Okay, so that's my plants in place. I'm quite happy with that. Let's close all those up. So while we're here, let's add our crown. So we've got this picture of a crown here. So let's bring that crown down here. Let's make that quite big so we can see what we're doing. Just want to add our crown to our picture here. Maybe zoom in a bit bigger. Let's grab our warp tool so we can just warp that into place there. And maybe just warp that into place about there. Hit apply, Command 0, and let's add an adjustment to that crown. Let's add an exposure. and then just darken that down a little bit. And that looks pretty good. Let's bring in our sword. So we've got this picture of our sword. Clicking on the sword here, let's just bring that in here. It's underneath our character. So let's just straighten that a bit and put it in his hand about there. And I'm just going to add an exposure to that as well. Darken that down quite a bit, but I think we need to have that color as well. So a new pixel layer, add it to our sword. Let's fill that with the orange again. With our fill tool, fill it with the orange on our sword there. Let's change that to overlay, and then let's dial that down a little bit. No need for a mask on this one. Let's just dial it down so we can see the sword there. Maybe it has a bit of that hot glow. So there we go on the sword. I think I like that. Maybe let's just dial it down a little bit more. Maybe about there. I might just grab my erase tool and maybe just take a little bit off there. That is not looking too bad. So we've got our sword in place. I'm going to add my light now. So Command minus to make that a little bit smaller. Let's add some of these light rays. Clicking on the light rays, let's bring that all the way up here and make it really quite big. To fit sort of over the whole picture, let's change that to screen. Let's just bring that up a lot bigger. Even stretching it out a little bit more so it's not as harsh. And Command 0, that's not too bad. Let's add a bit of color to that. We're using a recolor adjustment for this one. Let's put it on recolor, clip it to the rays, and let's sort of have that sort of yellowy orange, but let's bring that right down. Might even just drop the opacity to about 50%. So that's not looking too bad. Make sure that covers the whole of that picture. And we'll add some embers as well. So on those embers, we'll change the blend mode to screen as well. And I'll make those quite big and stretch them out as well. Might even, shall we turn that around so it's sort of about, maybe sort of about there. Make those quite big, and let's add a mask to our embers. And on our embers and on that mask, let's grab our gradient tool and let's just put a gradient on it so we can get rid of that harsh line. Bring it all the way up to here, and then we can manipulate it a little bit. Sort of about there, looks pretty good. Got our embers coming down, and if we want, we can just get our erase brush and just get rid of some of these bigger ones if we want that don't quite fit. There we go, that is looking pretty good. What I'm going to do too on my character is add another exposure, make this one quite bright, and again I'm going to invert that. Back on my brush, about 15%. Change my colors back to default. Make that a bit bigger again. My brush a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to add some highlights in there as well. Okay, I think we've got all of our layers in place here. Then finally we can come up to the top, layers, merge visible. Let's come over here to develop, turn up our clarity all the way, about there. Let's go to details, let's go to about the 50 mark on each of these. Back to basic, maybe drop the exposure a little bit, turn up the vibrance, and hit develop. And there we go, everybody. That is my tutorial for my devil composite, devil in the forest. I hope you have liked the tutorial this week. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to head over to the Buy Me a Coffee site if you would like to show your appreciation and support my channel. Also on the Buy Me a Coffee site there is lots of free assets that you can use in your own composites. But until next time, I'm going to say to you, stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.